only mean traditional museum, but also museums that are connected with industrial design production. So it's a very broad range of typologies. And we started our activity, now at least 3 or 4 years ago, let's say around 2017, together with the Comune di Milano, the Assessorato alla Cultura. And we started, our first start was managing to organize a sort of, let's say, public event, which was called the Secret Museum, Museo Segreto, which wanted to promote the, let's say, everything which is usually hidden in a museum, whether it is in a private collection or collection which are not usually shown in the galleries of the museum. Promoting a sort of very intense dialogue between the curators of the museums and all the attendants, all the participants, which proved to be a very successful one. Now it's a sort of traditional event that people is waiting for, which unfortunately for the COVID emergency this year could not be prosecuted on. But we are trying to, let's say, promote a sort of light, smart edition using the technologies. I mean, since then, we started to develop a program which tried to focus on some emergencies or some problems that are connected to the museum audience, including disabled people, included children, included old-aged people. So, I mean, our first question, our main question was, how can we promote a deeper knowledge of Milanese people, and not only Milanese people, with the heritage of the museum? How can we make easy the dialogue between these two separated entities? And one of the main problems, which I mean, proved to be a very central one in these years to our analysis, was how can we, let's say, give a physical evidence to the importance of involving design at any kind of level in the development of a new strategies for museum. So one first step last year was to ask 11 industrial design producers to donate to 11 museums, including Pinacoteca Ambrosiana, Brera, I mean all the major, and not only the major galleries in Milano. How could we donate a particular set to be placed in front of, in a particular room, which was chosen by the curators themselves, in front of a work of art, whether it was a sculpture, a car, for instance, for the Alfa Romeo car museums, or a painting, or whatever. And this was really a great effort, very engaging one, which was welcomed really by either by the visitors or the curators of the museum. Now our next step, which will involve the students of design academies, design school, and so on, all over Italy, is to promote this competition for a seat that has been described in our program, which was launched for the call for design competition. So there is a description which, I mean, I think I do not need now this moment to recall again, but anyway, of course, after my presentation, there will be time for, I mean, a sort of question time. So any kind of questions that you want to ask, either from a technical point of view or a design point of view, you can ask, and our expert will give possibly answers. So we promoted this call for a seat for museums because we wanted to encourage all kinds of people to visit the museum, including those with slight motor impairment. Because we, I mean, it's very clear that this kind of people, we suffer of some disabilities of any kind, they're often prevented to visit museum because of longing working distances and the lack of comfortable and available seats for them to be used. So our idea exactly was born out of this context, and through the height of few slides, I will try to exactly focus on the entity and the aesthetical and technical dimension of this problem. Just like I just want to take advantage of a few minutes to remember that the names of our judging committee, which is composed by me, myself, who I'm talking at the moment, Fulvio Irace. I'm an historian and professor at the Politecnico di Milano. Silvana Nicchiarico, design curator and former design curator for Design Museum in the Triennale di Milano for more than 12 years. Gianni Arduini, designer and professor. Michele De Lucchi, of course, architect, designer, and whatever. It's so well known that I don't need to make more remarks about that. Peter Hefti, design management consultant, that will be present today, and he will take question to answer after my talk, and Alessandra Quarto, who is an architect and deputy director of the Pinacoteca di Brera, which is one of our warmest sponsors, together with Galleria d'Italia in this project. Okay, so I will start with the slide presentation. Okay, so this is the cover of our MuseoCity competition, which we decided to call Sitting Muses, and you see one of the muses who's sitting. I mean, the idea or the title, the name of the competition came out of one of the most celebrated examples of Italian arts of the last century, Giorgio de Chirico, The Disquieting Muses of 1918, one of the starting painting of the Metaphysica. So we see, I mean, there is some sort of irony about that, because we thought that these muses were disquieting because they were sitting in a very uncomfortable place. So the idea of our call exactly was to try to design some easy way, easy and comfortable way for visitors to stay in museums. One of the most emblematic conditions in which can describe in few words the condition, the general condition of museum in global era is maybe these pictures by Thomas Truth, who's been investigating in a very idiosyncratic way what is the way people get into the museum, what is the mood, the condition in which they, you know, participate to this sort of art liturgy. So the eye of the photographer is concentrated not on the work of arts, but on the people who's standing, people who's crowding. This is the Las Meninas room in Prado. So you can see that one of the, most difficult challenge for curators, but for visitors as well, is how can they really approach the works of arts in a way that they can enjoy it and not just suffer standing alone. So this is, the general condition in which most museums, not only in Italy, but all over the world, have to face the problem of overcrowding and how can they support the stay of people during the day. In fact, one of the most interesting effect is that as soon as you get a seat for people, this city gets as overcrowded as the room in themselves. This is some images taken in the sculpture garden in MoMA, New York. So you can see that in a very simple way, just a sort of informal sitting, how much this kind of sitting is required by people as a sort of resting place. Even the hard steps that take to the traditional 19th century museum like the Met in New York can offer a sort of pose, a sort of resting pose for people who are maybe under the Stendhal syndrome, just come out of the museum. This is another image from the garden of the Triennale in Milano. So, and this is of course the Louvre in Paris with the cafe all around the terrazzas, the loggias, which are overlooking the Cour Carrée. So the main issue is furnishing museum. And here again, history has something to tell us about, because, for instance, this is one of the most famous painting by Johann Zoffany. It's 1772. It's the representation of the Tribune of the Uffizi, one of the most, let's say, the cult place in art galleries in the world, which is in Florence. It's quite interesting that, Zoffany is showing us what was the educated people coming from the Grand Tour in Italy, how they attended their visit in the museum. They were received, they were guested, there were sofas. If you remember the famous movie, Picture with a View, you can also remember that, for instance, the English community could enjoy 5 o'clock tea in the Galleria degli Uffizi. Of course, this was a condition, an irreputable condition, which meant that the museum were people for a very educated elite who could be able, in such a free way, without disturbing the safety of the works of art. So this condition, it's a sort of past ideas which cannot be reproduced today, if you remember the Thomas Stewart pictures I showed before. But another interesting consideration is about what happened in Italy, especially in the post-war reconstruction, when the museum and galleries, for instance, this is Franco Albini, the display for an exhibition of the painter Scipioni in the Pinacoteca di Brera, but of course his first masterpiece in the post-war was the refurbishment of the Galleria di Palazzo Bianco in Genova, in which, as you can see, the real challenge was how should we define the art gallery, the museums in the Republican Italy. So the museum was projected in another dimension, was not anymore in that intention to be a sort of, let's say, place for elite, but it was open to the people. And the idea of Albini, BB Pierre and Carlo Scarpa was a really starting point for what would happen later. So the idea was, first of all, to introduce, as you can see in these pictures, some pieces of industrial design furniture, these chairs, for instance, in order to say that industrial design can cooperate, it's at the same level of the works of arts. And even all the installation of the paintings through this sort of tubes, which was one of the main characteristics of Albini's design, as you can see in a broader view here. They are sort of prostheses made through the idea of industrial design. So Albini was stating that the industrial design could get inside the museum without any fear to challenge the works of art and to improve their quality. And of course, the other idea was that the rooms for these galleries had not to be intended as an Italian place, but they were a sort of, let's say, representation of an ideal house of the Italians or house of the Italian art. So the domestic design really comes into the public space, making a mixture. Here, for instance, you see this exhibition here about the painter Luca Cambiaso in Genova by Eugenio Carmi. You can see the installation of domestic chair, a sort of what was called in Italy Tripolina, and also the lighting system was the same kind of lighting system that you could find in modern houses by the time. So there are a lot of examples. Some have remained because are parts of the galleries, like Palazzo Bianco in Genova. Some other ones were just parts of ephemeral exhibition, like this by Franco Albini and Franca Elp. It was the Delacroix exhibition in Alla Napoleonica in Venice, but with a new kind of furniture, which was designed and produced by the time. So it was contemporary industrial design with art from the 19th century altogether. And I would like to close this very short slot of slides with one of the most beautiful examples, which Alas has been recently retransformed. This is the Luigi Cacciadominioni invention, let's say, for the Sala di Raffaello in the Pinacoteca Ambrosiana, which is one of the most precious work of art, which is contained together with the painting by Caravaggio in the Pinacoteca Ambrosiana. And Luigi Cacciadominioni invented this kind of, let's say, seating, which was a metallic seating that is still produced by Zucchene and now B&B, called Nonaro, which he produced as a single seat and as an extended seat for three people. I mean, this image, I think it represents at the best the really bold moods of Italian architects and designers to face the problem of getting an easy access to works of art. So we have a 16th century masterpiece, the Cartone by Raffaello, and we have a masterpiece from the 20th century, which is the Seduta Nonaro, and they face just one in front of the other. So from this kind of ideas come out our project. Shall we be able to make a proposal of refurbishing our museums in an innovative way without denying our contemporaneity and at the same time trying to produce an informal and accessible facility for the visitors. Here again, we have some case studies that can be very quickly examined. For instance, this seating system for community, which is called the Unity by Richard Shemtov in MoMA, New York, and which can be also installed inside the museum, so not outside, but also inside the museum. It's quite interesting to note that in the same time, because it was a sort of joint venture between Maxi and MoMA, Maxi, the Zaha Hadid Museum in Rome. This is an installation of the same time, 2013, for the outside spaces of the museum, which are an integral parts of the Zaha Hadid Museum again. So it's a system, a very informal system of seating for outdoor. And of course, you can see that this approach can be subjects of different variation. You can have smaller units together with a bigger one. Another interesting and more close to our times intervention is this in National Museum in Stockholm by TAF, who produced it expressly for the museum, a seating system, which was called Atelier Chair, produced by Artec. There are some details. Even, yes, this one is quite interesting. So it's a very simple system which can be stackable and producible in different colors, which is, well, it's most suitable, for instance, if you have an auditorium or if you have, let's say, rooms for interviews or for slide showing for more than to be placed in galleries, properly in galleries. But anyway, it's quite an interesting examples because the design is new, but at the same time it has a sort of comfortable traditional appeal around it. Another interesting examples comes from Tate Modern in London, the Elsa de Meuron refurbishment of the old Bank Power, which is very well known. So Jasper Morrison decided either the seating system for the cafeteria on the upper level of the Tate, or the system of seating for some of the galleries. This is called the Monforte, like the Milanese Corso Monforte. So it's a wide sort of low sofa for many people. So this is before COVID pandemic, because maybe that now we have to take care also of the possibility of this tremendous virus. So this is another interesting differences that maybe should be included in our program. But I think that more closer to our idea is this series of projects that is called the Stockholm 2, installed at the Weida Kunsthallen Museum Gallery in Holland, which is a foldable chair. It's quite light and quite easy to, to take and to move around the galleries. And this is, these pictures have been taken by the internet sites because it's the shop of the museum, in which you can also see the chairs which are stackable, and you can also buy it. And there is also another interpretation of these chairs for children. It's called the Snoopy. So it's smaller, of course. It's more colored, more joyful, let's say. So the same objects can be produced in different scales. Yes, this is another example for staying seated a little longer. So there are many, as you can see, I mean, the typology maybe it's always the same because the system of folding chairs, of course, there are not many ways of folding chairs. There is one or two basic ways, but the reinterpretation of the materials of the nuts, for instance, in the middle, or the textures can be quite different. So there is space. One of my favorite examples is this sort of sitting stool that can be found in the ArcTS, which is the architectural museum in the art museum in Stockholm by Raphael Moneo. This is the pavilion which is dedicated to architecture. It's full of models of architecture. So this kind of stool, I mean, because you can see that the height of the stool is quite different from the others, because it's exactly meant to be movable all around. So you can sit and you can, you can view, you can judge, you can observe the models at the right height. So each one is, let's say, responding to a particular challenge. The last one is one which has been adopted in Milan 2 years ago by the Pinacoteca di Brera. The office Uwe Fischer produced these foldable chairs. So this is, I mean, this is quite a nice image because it remembers the face mask that we have to wear together. I do not want to mean that you can use a stool as a face mask, but anyway, here we have one, and this is the way the seating system, which as you can see, to different heights, can be exhibited in a traditional art gallery such Brera is. Okay, so I think that just these few case studies can, I mean, we hope that they can prove of some evidence and give some inspiration, just in order to understand what is our main aim in launching these projects. So I would ask Peter Hefti to come near me, to reach me at the desktop with the due distance, of course. And if there is any question you would like to ask of any kind, we can share the microphone, and you can either chat or talk. Questo è il nome della persona?
Mettiamoci tutti e due.
Yes, ok.
Vogliamo già rispondere a qualche domanda?
Sì. Yes, I have a question. So, do they speak to the microphone or we have to read?
Ok, chiediamogli se... Katy, can you switch on your microphone and ask the question? Oh, okay.
Or either you can also write it in the chat.
Yeah.
Are you expecting, yes, a project just for disabled people or for everyone? Yes, no, I would say that for everyone, not just for disabled people.
Hi to everybody. Now, my name is Peter Hefti, and I worked for many years for design industries and still working. And the idea of the project is to give the possibility to people that have very slight disability, that means that have some problems, to make a visit in a museum, to take a visit in a museum and go around maybe for 2 hours standing. That is not the way. So we are not considering heavy disability, because if someone comes with a wheelchair, he will go with a wheelchair, or he or she will go with a wheelchair, use the wheelchair. So it's not a question of the disability means that by aging, people have some problems to stand up for many hours, 1 hour, 2 hours of the visit. So
Yes.
they would like to sit a little bit. Of course, in major museum or all museums, there are benches, couches, fixed one. But these do not give the possibility to the visitor to, in fact, stand in front of the picture or of the statue for a while and look at in details. The idea is the following. To have one or two, at least 2 chairs in each room, in a corner or something like that. And once you approach the room, you can take the chair with you and you bring it in front of the picture or the statue that you want to examine. Okay? Yes. So you sit there. We think that maximum the stay once in the look at one picture or a statue could be maximum 10 minutes. I don't think, or something more, but basically it's not that you stay
4 hours. Yes.
4 hours.
Yes.
Okay? And this means that the chair should be is somehow easy to move, because you don't need to take it from you take it and you bring it around, okay? And for this reason, we would like, if there is a backrest, to have a useful place to put your hand and raise it, or bring it with you, okay? In order not to have to use two hands to bring it around.
Yes.
So this is the concept of lightness. How light should be, we don't know, depending on the material. Obviously, the idea is that the chair should have a certain safe stability, okay? Because older people have to stay, every visitor has to sit in a place that is stable. So the lightness means that you can bring it around, okay? Should not be a heavy stuff. Okay, backrest. Now the question is, Professor Irace showed you also things that have no backrest. This we leave it up to you. But if you think that, let's say, an aged people can sit on something that has no backrest, is something that is a little bit strange. So you have to be comfortable in your thing, despite the fact that you sit there for maximum 10 minutes. So backrest is something that we evaluate very positive.
Yes, we encourage to include it. If not compulsory, it's strongly encouraged to.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we come to the material, because it's the most important question that came up. Our project is planned to be produced in a small quantity at the beginning. Let's say 50, 60 chairs, not more at the beginning. Then we will see after. But the question is, when you go into production of this thing, you should avoid materials that needs molds. Okay, the molds cost a lot of money, and it's not economic in somehow to make a mold to produce small amounts. So this means that the chair should be produced not using molds or special things that have to be done especially. This means that I don't know, wood is okay, could be aluminium also, it's okay, because let's say you can bend the aluminium very easy, you can do it, I don't know, could be also cardboard in theory. we think that plastic is a lot more complicated because 99% of the time you need to make a mold for it.
Okay. Any budget limits? I'm referring to the production cost of the seats we're going to decide.
Okay, also here, of course, we cannot make a gold chair. And one of the good point of your...
Although we would like to.
We would like, but it's not possible. So we think that theoretically, when you present the project, you should somehow justify some important things in order to make it also economically producing it. That means that can be sustainability, okay? That means you can recycle the chair by disassembling it in, let's say, the basic material. I don't know, you make a chair, you design a chair with wood and, I don't know, another material, okay? And you should be able to disassemble the chair in order to get the wood in a part and the other material in another, and then bring it away, okay? Then it should be comfortable. But this is the project. But basically, economically wise, should not be something that is very expensive to be built, okay? So no chair in titanium, just to give you an example.
Okay, so we have another couple of questions. One is, what about 3D printing?
Okay, 3D printing is a nice example of doing the things. The question at the moment that to produce such large number of 3D chairs will cost a lot and maybe is not economically interesting to be done. But from the other side, I don't know, you want to plan this chair has a joint, okay? And theoretically, if you don't want to use, if you cannot use a mold, you could print it in 3D. That's
so, Peter, you are suggesting that you can use 3D printing, for instance, to solve some problems of the construction of the furniture. For instance, a knot or a joint between two parts. So not to produce the whole things, but just few elements of that. Okay. Okay, and yes, this is an interesting question. Should it be just one chair, or it might be a collection of chairs? This is interesting. I mean, it's intriguing from an aesthetical point of view. Yes, our president is suggesting maybe that would be the subject of another composition, because I mean, it's quite interesting, the idea. But I'm afraid that it would be not easily affordable, because of course we are talking about you know, something that should be afforded in a very easy way, not be too expensive. So I guess that if you have a collection, I mean, you need a lot of investment.
okay. In theory, Professor Irace showed you that in Stockholm they have the Snoopy one and the larger one. Okay, we could think, but basically this could be accepted, but not if you make one with backrest, one without backrest, one big, one small, then it's getting complicated, okay? So you should be on the objective, okay? Consider the objective of the call. A light chair that stays in a museum, that is easy handleable and can be used by person who have, let's say, with little more to aged person, let's say, okay? Or also are the people that have, age, anyone that would like to sit and admire the statue, the pictures, or whatsoever. Okay?
Then they ask Peter, yes, that says, should the chair be stackable?
Okay, this, in my opinion, this is an advantage, of course, but because once you put it in a warehouse, it's better to have it stackable somehow, but it's not fully necessary, in my opinion. Is, let's say, a plus of it.
Yes, because I would remind you that, as Peter told before, I mean, you are not intended to walk through all the galleries of the museum with the same chair, but in each room there will be one or two. So the chair only serves one single room, so you don't really need to be stackable in that. But of course, yes, in the warehouse, if they buy a lot, it could, of course, be easy to get them that way.
Again, Professor Irace showed you the Stockholm chair. This chair is not in each room. You have to carry it on, and yes, first to take it at the reception, and then you have to carry it along the whole museum. And this is not the idea, okay? Because if you have young people going around with a thing like that, it's okay. But again, the purpose is not to make a chair that is available to the reception, okay? But stays in the rooms, ready to be used and sit, okay?
Okay, so they ask, could you tell please how to represent projects, just in a digital way or also with a mock-up? Of course, I think that at number 4 of our call, Sit for Museum, it says about type, features, and methods of submission of the projects. So I would read it briefly. It says that each candidate or team leader is required to present the following works. One Uni A3 format table containing sketches, preliminary sketches, studies, and reference images. Uni A3 format table containing plan, side, back section in 1:5 scale. Uni A3 format table containing 3D render view. Uni A3 format table containing abacus of materials and finishing. And at last, another Uni A3 format table containing reports explaining the design choices with images, sketches, diagrams, if you wish, that can accompany the report. So this is exactly what is required. And of course, we have to choose a unified way of representation, because otherwise it's as you can imagine, very difficult to make a comparison among projects. So you should also, you should all, let's say, stay very close to the indication which you received in our program. Okay, how many number of chairs per room do you estimate?
Okay, this varies, of course, by the size of the room, okay? So in theory, we think, taking as an example, Pinacoteca di Brera or Ambrosiana and things like that, I think that two chairs should be enough in order to 2 chairs per room.
Yes.
Of course, if you have the British Museum or something like that, you need something else, but this depends on the size of the room.
So now we have a question in Italian, says, scusa per domanda, vorrei chiarire, dobbiamo creare solo una sedia o anche spazio, tipo una stanza? No, direi che no, purtroppo ci dobbiamo limitare a una sedia, perché il museo non ci farebbe progettare una stanza. però diciamo che la sedia può essere una sedia di Troia, possiamo per quello e poi magari il prossimo concorso progetteremo una stanza, però al momento direi che è esattamente una sedia per stanza. Ah sì, yes, I mean the first come of the project, the first chairs that would be produced, selected, and of course would be the winner of the competition. I mean, they will be adopted by the Galleria d'Italia in Piazza della Scala in Milano. So they will be. Come? I see. Because yes, as I told you before, the Galleria d'Italia are our main sponsor and partner of the project. So they will be the first to host the chairs. If you, I don't know if we send you some pictures of the galleries, the Galleria d'Italia. We did not. Okay, what we can do. I don't know what would be. Yes, we could send you a set of images of the rooms of the Galleria d'Italia. Maybe that yes, that could be interesting for you to work with, because it's that would be the first location.
Questo no, se stranieri o stagisti, però.
Sì. Noi abbiamo già, sì. Okay, then we have ciao as format table means in landscape orientation. I do not understand exactly landscape. What is landscape orientation?
Loro non conoscono la definizione di uni. Se vuoi...
Ah, ok. Well, uni it's an Italian word for, it says unified north, no?
Exactly.
So when we say, how can we translate it?
Okay.
Peter, uni A3 format.
Let's say papers, size of papers. I don't know. This is
yes, the table of contents.
This is an A4, okay? Then you have a bigger one that is A3, that is double A4. And this is an international classification, okay? So you take the classification of your country, of the size of the paper, that is normal what you use, and this is the same size worldwide, okay?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, no, my question was about the orientation of the paper in vertical or horizontal, the A3. I know the size.
Usually in horizontal. I think usually it's in horizontal. Yes.
Ah, okay,
yeah.
Because it says format table. So A3 format table. Okay, landscape. I mean.
Yes, I mean when you say this way, horizontal.
Yes, is that way?
Yes. I mean, it's much easier if it is horizontal. Yes.
Okay, but we can choose as well.
Well, why don't you try to adopt the same system? Because if someone is making horizontal and another one in vertical, then okay. If we have to make an exhibition, for instance, of selected projects, it will cause some problems. So I mean, I don't think it's limiting the freedom of your inventiveness if you try to adopt the same system. So let's say it's A3 laid in a horizontal way. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Okay. So we are designing a chair for Galleria d'Italia. Yes. Galleria d'Italia is the name of an art museum in Milano, in Piazza della Scala. Banca Intesa, yes. Maybe that we can we share the screen? Yeah. Okay. We are managing now. Maybe in 2 or 3 minutes we'll be ready. I think that we can share the screen and we show you some of the rooms of this Galleria d'Italia, just to understand where are you working for. And then if you want, we can send you some sets of images. Okay.
Sorry, I think that is important is that in your project, you don't have to adapt the chair to the Galleria d'Italia. This would be something that do not work, okay? But you have to think something that could be placed, let's say, at the Louvre, could be placed at the British Museum, in, I don't know, in China, in Japan, wherever.
In
okay?
different contexts. Yes, of course, you don't have to mimic the museum. Yes.
Also,
yes.
And also, you have to think that this could go not always in, not only in art museum, okay, but could be
yes, in the car museum, for instance.
In industrial museum,
sí.
Could be anywhere, okay. So the fact that the environment is not that important, but is important the design itself, and the design and the let's say the project that has to fulfill different
yes,
ideas.
if I can add a further remark, following what Peter Hefti has already said, when he say it doesn't matter what, I mean that maybe okay, yes, here you can have a set of slides, okay. Okay. So we mean that, of course, one of the main idea is, in generally speaking, it's also the balance between the object that you introduce in an art gallery or in an industry gallery or whatever. So between the objects that you are that are on view, and the stool that you are introducing in, there always must be a balance. So, I mean, roughly speaking, I would say this object is not to be too invasive, for instance, as not to claim for itself, for its presence, but as to match with the whatever kind of work of art or industrial art it is facing. So these are some of the rooms of the galleries, but you're not obliged to follow that. So you're not going to produce a neoclassic or
no
industrial
chairs. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now they say, should be worried if the design of the chair visually stands out from the interior in which it's
okay, we have just answered.
Yes, we have already answered. Poi,
that means, okay, I think the contest or the call is open to all students, also strange students.
Yes.
No matter which nationality.
Yes.
But they have to
study in Italy.
To study in Italy, yes. In the following schools. Okay.
Yes, the school that have been invited, we have. I think that you have a list of the schools as well. Yes.
Accademia di Belle Arti di Brera, Politecnico di Milano, Domus Academy, NABA, Scuola Politecnica di Design, Istituto Marangoni, IED Milano, European Institute of Design. Queste sono le scuole, are the school who has been invited. So if you are studying in one of these schools,
yeah, it doesn't matter the nationality, because of course a large part of our students in Italy, and especially in Milano, they are students coming from abroad. Then someone is asking, do we have to consider any limitations in production techniques? I think that you asked before, no?
Yes.
Yes.
And there was the question is if we have already sorted the potential producer. Okay, we are thinking about this, but again, if we choose a project, let's say, that is a glass chair, okay? it's not interesting to ask a producer that does wood chairs. Okay, so we have in our mind a possible producer, but we would like first to choose the project. Okay, because the best thing, and also not only for but also for economic reasons, should be someone who is specialized to do things. Okay. Okay. You have also to be aware that producing chair is not exactly something that anybody can do. It's a very specialized way of producing things. Okay, if you are producing, I don't know, wardrobes or beds or something like that, maybe you are not able to produce a chair, okay, or couches.
Yes. Okay, then then they ask Peter, is it important to build a prototype or just drawing and render for the idea?
Okay, in my opinion, because we cannot put every prototype, bring here the prototypes, that would be complicated. So let's say at the first stage, you know, the drawings are necessary. Yes. But again, for your idea, you could build it yourself a little prototype. Okay, maybe use your 3D machine,
and you could make pictures of the prototypes and insert them in your presentation.
Because I have to advise you that normally this works for all furniture or whatsoever, 3D objects. If you see it in a 3D, it's okay. But then normally when you have to produce it, you have to make a prototype, okay? Because certain things cannot be defined only through drawings also in 3D, okay? Because when you see it, okay, the 3D is very nice, but again, the chair or the object is not nice. And you need small adjustment, okay?
Okay. Then could you please send us those images? Yes, we can send them, but as Peter suggested, I would be a little bit concerned about the power of this image somehow to push on your ideas. So if we wish, we can send, maybe you can send us an email to one who are interested. We can, of course, send them, but not be impressed by those images, because the size of the project should be a more universal one, not to adapt to a specific museum. Although that would be the final first.
In reality, an industry give an input to a designer in order to and say, okay, we need, I don't know, a chair in aluminium, in titanium, or whatsoever that has been, that we have to put around a table in a dining for home. But the company doesn't give too many briefing, because this limits the creativity of the designer, okay? If we put too many sticks at the end, we will not get what we want, okay?
Yes, okay, it's clear. So this is interesting, although I do not completely understand what is the meaning. They ask, should we keep an Italian, sorry, I lost it. Should we keep an Italian identity, or we have to go in an universal way? Well, if you are Italian, you automatically will have an Italian identity. If you're not Italian, I cannot imagine how can you assume an Italian identity. Also because I would not be able of defining myself what an Italian is. So I would say I cannot answer actually.
With the exception, if you are living on Mars, then it would be better to hide it. Okay.
Okay. Then Balina says, should we take any particular museum in mind when doing it? Of course, each museum has its own aesthetics and build. Some are modern and some showcases and real work. Yes, here again, we have to repeat, no, you do not have to keep in mind any specific museum, but your proposal should be adjustable either from a functional or aesthetical point of view to any kind of museum, which is quite interesting because it means that we have to concentrate on yourself and imagine an object which is visible, but at the same time is invisible. It's an object which is a sort of mute servant inside the museum. So it's be a gentle approach that can fit, can match with any kind of art, not in an impositive one.
Okay, there is another question that is interesting about copyright, okay? Somebody said we cannot send you the image for copyright reasons. So we should put it on...
No, questo era per le gallerie d'Italia.
Ah,
okay,
sorry.
Okay. Non avevo letto per
sorry.
Okay, so, okay, add any others messages coming?
Okay.
Okay.
I want to just add a few things because people has raised the question about, again, UNI. UNI is the Italian institute that regulates, is like the Germany has one, US has one, that regulates some millions of billions of regulation and things, how to build a spaceship or how everything. So UNI is this, and they have norms that we have put inside just to give you an idea on how, what are the basic things that if the chair has to go in public space, you should follow, okay? That means that is for you a guideline, but not a must, okay? We think that the most important thing that you have to consider is comfortable, safety, stability, and resistance of the product, okay? Because you have also to bear in mind that the product could fall and you cannot substitute the chair every 6 months. So these are the basic things that you hear, you have to, and obviously ergonomic, okay? And the UNI norms that we have given is not to be followed strictly, is only to know which kind of things are asking. In the case, you win, and then we have to put it in a museum. Then we have to be to produce a chair that is for the community. Yeah. Okay. So because there were a lot of questions about it. Let's say that in this process you have to think really, but taking the idea of what is the input of the project, okay? Obviously, you will not send us chair with 3 legs, okay? Or chair with names on the backrest or whatsoever. So be, let's say, reasonable, think normal in this case, okay?
Okay, so, okay, thank you very much for all the questions. I do not see any more questions. Okay, so if there are not more questions, okay, I would like to thank you all attend in such a generous way to our competition. It's more than 100 students that are attending our competition, and we very much trust in your creativity, in your freedom, and in your generosity, which is also a way to free ourselves from all the fears of this horrible condition in which we are now. So we think that through the project, through the engagement of our fantasy and our also skillfulness, it's the only way that we can fight our fears, to establish ourselves as a community. And so really, I want to thank you all in behalf of MuseoCity organization and all the people who are attending this call today for participating. Bye. Have a nice
Goodbye.
day.
Have a nice day.
For questions, eventi@museocity.it, or they can send out.
Ok, so vogliamo scriverglielo qui?
Sì, o se non glielo posso dire.
Ok, no, è meglio scrivere l'email. So we can send you an email address.
Okay.
Tu.
Hi guys. Hi there. I'm Silvia Adler, MuseoCity organization. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we're always available via email to answer to your questions if you have any further questions for us. Bye bye.